You know, ladies and gentlemen, I've had this thought, and I'm sure a lot of you will agree with me. With my predictions recently, I might start doing the lottery or something like that because I just can't seem to stop getting things right. And I hear you asking, well, what predictions did you make? Well, being as Trump signed an executive order banning men identifying as women from female sports and can now withhold federal funding from institutions who don't abide by this, I said there would be a meltdown from the woke mob. Nobody else saw this coming. Nobody else thought of this. No one else predicted this. I'm feeling quite special right now. When it was the most obvious thing that was gonna happen. Anything that changes for these people, that's it. The world is ending. Oh my gosh, we can't have men in women's sports any longer. Yeah, deal with it. But before we get into a couple of videos from these people and establishments out there, by the way, not being too happy about men being banned from women's sports. You know, when I say it like that, that's just how crazy things are. These people are so upset men can't compete against women. Anyway, we have a huge development surrounding this whole thing, and it's a very positive one. It should have happened sooner, but positive nonetheless. But because of this executive order, the NCAA have announced that they are now stopping men from competing in women's sports. Yes, you heard me correct. See how easy all of this really was? See how simple the solution is? But oh no, we had to watch woke madness take over women's sports. Completely insane. Now, if you're happy about this executive order and the news about the NCAA banning men from women's sports, make sure to leave a like rating. If you're new, hit that subscribe button, turn on bell notifications so you never miss a video, comment on this video, share this video, and let's get into this amazing piece of news. The Daily Mail report, the NCAA makes ruling on transgender athletes in women's sports after Trump executive order. The NCAA has officially adopted a policy preventing trans women, so men, from competing in women's sports after President Donald Trump signed an executive order banning them on Wednesday. The top collegiate athletics governing body has now implemented new rules that will only allow people to compete in women's sports if they were assigned female at birth. In a press release from the NCAA, the body's president, Charlie Baker, said there are more than 530,000 NCAA athletes. At a Senate hearing in December of 2024, Baker said he was aware of less than 10 transgender athletes, meaning this policy goes to the lengths of banning 0.0018% of athletes. Now, first and foremost, saying there are fewer than 10 transgender athletes in the NCAA is complete BS. But even if, let's say there were fewer than 10 transgender athletes in the NCAA, it doesn't matter because there shouldn't be one dude in a women's sport. Pretty simple. And along with that, there should not be one dude in a woman's locker room, in a girl's locker room. How have we reached the point that for some people, not some, for a lot of people, it is acceptable for a dude to go into a girl's woman's locker room just because one day they say, oh yeah, by the way, I'm going to identify as a female today and you all have to accept that. And these are the very same people who will talk about girls and women's safety. How does that make any sense? It doesn't. And yet they'll condemn you for calling it out. Left is right, up is down. Common sense with these people, it's hard to find. Now, Riley Gaines, as you would expect, has reacted to this news on X. As we all know, she and other women went through a disgraceful situation with swimmer Leah Thomas. He was allowed to compete against women, but not only that, he was allowed in the locker rooms. Again, according to white leftist liberals, that is very stunning, brave, progressive. Get out of it. But she goes on to post, I wish I could have told the girl in this photo what was to come in 2025. She felt cheated, betrayed, and violated. I'm just glad that girl trusted God and took a leap of faith by stating the obvious when it wasn't popular. It was true then, and it's true now. He's a man. And it's crazy to think we entered a time, where for so long you couldn't say, oh, a man is a man, a woman is a woman, regardless of how they identify. How does that... The common sense is slowly but surely returning in some aspects, and there are some people out there who aren't happy about it. So we have a woke TikTok coach who is having a meltdown over Trump's new executive order protecting women's sports because men can no longer invade women's spaces and beat up women. This is apparently a coach. Can't make it up. Let's take a listen.
It's Women and Girls in Sports Day. I'm seeing lots of posts. I'm seeing people saying things like, protect girls in sports. And I'm like, I agree. And then I think for a second, oh, I hope they're not just talking about cis girls. And then I don't know. And the uncertainty is scaring me. And that uncertainty, of course, stems from the fact that this administration is normalizing the erasure of trans people.
Let's just stop there because I'm tired of this talking point already. It's so boring. People aren't getting erased. Right, do you know how ridiculous you sound when you say that? It's just because now you're starting to see what truth, reality, common sense actually means, and you don't like it.
Hate the fact that I can't just enjoy celebration of women's sports without thinking to myself that maybe this is an exclusive statement and not an inclusive one like it should be. And if that's how I feel as a cis woman, imagine how the trans women feel right now, the trans women athletes. And that's why it's so important that the three groups that I listed earlier, the women's sports media organizations, I've not seen one major women's sports media company speak out today. Speak out. Take a stance against this. Stand up for trans women and trans girls. These are trans children who just want to play on the same team as their friends and they can't anymore. Professional athletes, college athletes, reporters, influencers, anybody who has a platform that benefits or talks about women's sports, take a stance against this, because that is who we are. We speak up. That is what we do in women's sports. And there should be nothing more insulting to you than the fact that this was all done in the name of protecting our community, when we know that's not who we are. I love women's sports, and anytime you ever hear me say that, know that I mean all women.
I just can't believe sporting organizations and athletes aren't speaking out against this. They aren't speaking out against men going into women's sports and taking places, awards, opportunities away. Oh no! I don't know what's wrong with these people. There needs to be a study or something, because I just don't know what goes on in their heads half the time. Only women who are actually women should be competing in women's sports. I know that's so upsetting to you, and you can't believe how people within a community feel. Oh my gosh. Again, as I said, who cares? But moving on to the next one, we have a CNN clip here, and this was posted by Eric Erickson, who goes on to say, CNN shows plus 70% of Americans support barring men from women's sports, then lets a trans athlete come on to tell Americans how ignorant they are. The network is broken. Yeah, I think we've known that for a very long time.
Thanks so much for being with us. I wonder what your reaction is to Trump signing this executive order. How do you weigh the impact that this would have on athletes?
We knew that this was coming. This was a campaign promise that the Republicans put a lot of money into in the lead up to the presidential election, and has been a pillar of their party for the last several years. So it's not a surprise that this is coming today. It's disappointing, though, that this is happening on National Women and Girls in Sports Day and taking away from some of the actual real things that people can do to support women and girls in sports.
He did something to support women and girls in sports. He got rid of men who shouldn't be competing in there. That is a big way to support women's sports. I don't know what these people are on about.
So when you hear people say, this is how it should be, trans athletes have a competitive advantage over non-trans athletes, what do you say to them?
There's no evidence that trans athletes have an advantage over anyone else in sports. Trans athletes play sports for the same reasons as anybody else, for our love of the game, to be a part of a team, to challenge ourselves, and most of all, for the youth level, to have fun. And every young person deserves that opportunity to be their authentic self and to play the sports that they love without compromising any part of who they are.
Do you not think girls deserve to play sports that they love, that they sacrifice a lot for, without having a dude in there who does have a biological advantage and ruining it for them? Do you not think they deserve that? Yeah.
I'm curious about that, Chris, because you say that there's no evidence that there's a competitive advantage, but we've heard from parents who've had a different experience. They've argued that there is irrefutable evidence, irrefutable differences in physiology between the sexes, that hormone therapies don't sufficiently level the playing field. Do you get where they're coming from?
We have to look at what we're talking about here. And if we're talking about youth sports is part of our educational system. And as part of our educational system, young people learn values such as discipline, hard work, leadership, teamwork, communication skills, and so much more from their participation in sports. We know that each body is different, every person is different, and that even amongst cisgender kids, that are kids that are not transgender, there are differences in their strength, their speed, their ability, their natural ability, as well as differences in their access to good coaching, to great equipment, to things like rest and recovery or proper nutrition, all of the things that go into making someone be a good athlete. And I think that people don't really consider those other factors. The laser focus has been on hormone therapy or testosterone. And when we're talking about young kids, which is part of what this executive order will be applying to, I think we really missed the mark when we're focusing so heavily on biology and not on the lived experience of kids who are just trying to have the educational experience as their peers.
I mean, kids should not be thinking they're the opposite gender in the first place. I know you guys all stand for that, but that is completely wrong. And look, I'm just going to say, ladies and gentlemen, if ever one day you feel like, you know, you're not that smart, you're not that knowledgeable, you feel like your intelligence can be better, just come back and listen to this clip, all right? Because you will feel like Einstein. Because these people. We also have a news clip on YouTube posted by WWMT-TV where other people within the community aren't happy about this.
And Trump's executive order that bans biological males from participating in women's sports is causing controversy tonight. News Channel 3's Autumn Pitcher is live in Kalamazoo. And Autumn, you got some mixed reaction from both sides of this issue.
Yes, Andy, the NCAA says there is only 10 transgender people competing in college sports across the nation. And even though this is a small number, both sides feel it's an important topic. President Trump Wednesday night signing an executive order that bans transgender girls and women from women's sports.
Men and women are not all biologically the same. You know, women need to be in women's sports and men in men's sports.
State Representative Gina Johnson praising President Trump for making bold moves at the start of his second term. But the decision, just one of many, getting mixed reactions from the public.
My friends are transgender, they compete in sports, and having this ban be implemented it's infringes on so many rights. And it's just terrible.
And there's big consequences if the order titled Keeping Men Out of Women's Sports isn't followed. President Trump saying a school that chooses to disobey it will lose federal funding.
I think it's an overreach of government, and they're using it as a tactic to stir up and upset people.
Christopher Turcos is the executive director of Outfront Kalamazoo, a
What is
charitable
that?
organization that serves the LGBTQ+ community. Turcos says the president is being exclusive.
Queer and trans folks, we carry every day the pressures of not being accepted. So it's just going to exacerbate that further.
But others, like Republican State Representative Gina Johnson, say the order is about fairness in sports.
This is common sense. This is part of his common sense package to restore fairness, safety, and privacy for women.
Exactly. But common sense doesn't sit well with these people. You know, the fact dudes now can't compete in women's sports or go into their locker rooms in public institutions is just deeply upsetting to them. They need help. Anyway, we have some places out in America, as I stated in the beginning, that aren't too happy about this and aren't going to stand with his executive order. And no surprise who we're going to be talking about first. California plans to continue allowing trans athletes to compete in girls' sports despite Trump executive order. The state of California and its Public School Athletics Association has indicated it will not fall in line with President Donald Trump's latest executive order to keep trans athletes out of girls and women's sports. The California Interscholastic Federation said it will continue to follow the state laws that allows trans athletes to participate as whichever gender they identify as, according to the San Francisco Chronicle. But it's not only California. Oh no, Minnesota State High School League has sent a statement out to schools saying they will continue allowing males to invade women's sports, ignoring President Donald Trump's new EO. Schools in Minnesota can now be sued for Title IX violations and have their funding cut. But let's read this out nonetheless. In Minnesota, participation and eligibility of transgender student athletes is determined by state law through the Minnesota Human Rights Act and the Minnesota Constitution. The Minnesota State High School League, similar to other youth sports organizations, is subject to state anti-discrimination laws which prohibit discrimination based on gender identity. Therefore, students in Minnesota are allowed to participate consistent with their gender identity. So what, a dude can just say he's a girl and then compete against other girls? What? Lunacy. League member schools have done excellent work in respecting students and their individual situations as they determine their participation and eligibility within interscholastic sports. The league will continue to review the existing state laws alongside the new presidential executive order and its timeline, process for states, and requirements that are included. Yeah. Well, it's not going to look too good for them if they do follow through with that one. But ladies and gentlemen, you have now reached the end of the video. Congratulations if you made it all the way through to the end. I really do thank you. I just don't get why people are so obsessed with allowing dudes in girls' sports. It is the most insane, backwards thing. Leave your thoughts down below. Nonetheless, what are your thoughts on everything discussed in this video? I'd like to know. If you have enjoyed, make sure once again to leave a like rating. If you're new, hit that subscribe button, turn on bell notifications so you never miss a video. Comment on this video, share this video, follow my socials down below in the description. But until next time, it has been your host JD. Have a great day, stay safe, and I'm out. Peace.